Good morning, everyone. Is this the crowd for core batch? No? So, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಕೋರ್ ಬ್ಯಾಚಿಗೆ? ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಯು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಿರೋದಾ? ಓಕೆ, ಹೇಳಿದ್ದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳೋದು, ಇನ್ನೇನು ಹೇಳೋದು ಹೊಸ. So, how many of you are selected for core batch? Good. So, almost entire class. Audible idea voice? No. Ivaga? Volume. Okay. So, very good morning. How many of you gave prelims this year? Very good. So, all of you have failed. And that is the reason, one of the reasons why you want to be in the core batch, right? So that, and we have also created some hype, when you are in core batch. So you have a very good chance of getting, rank 1 maybe. And so we used to get top 10 ranks. We have got actually last year rank 12 was the before last year core batch student, and this year many of the core batch students have actually cleared prelims, and they are doing well in mains as well, right? It has been the tradition, but this year core batch is going to be totally different, right? This is something original idea that which I initiated in the beginning in 2014, 15, 16 and even in 17. The original idea was, at that time I used to have very few students, and because of word of mouth they used to come, and most of them had written mains previously, and they had taken coaching from various Delhi centers. So all they wanted was an environment, a very competitive environment where they could practice intensely, continuously, with a small peer group to discuss all their answers and concerns and everything, right? So that was the original intention. So when a small group of people used to come to me and ask that, so I want individual feedback, but however I want an environment where I can be the best, right? So with that idea in my mind, so I thought that this year core batch, instead of charging you 40, 50, 60,000, so I thought let us democratize, right? So 2000 is a very small amount considering the number of tests you are going to write. You are going to write 91 tests. There are 77 mains tests, GS tests, and I think 14 or 15? 14 essay tests. Essay are full length tests. All the essay tests are full length essay tests. So which means if you are going to be part of the core batch, and if you are going to write all the tests in coming days, you are going to answer at least 500, 600 minimum answers going by your capacity, but we are going to give more than 1000 questions and answers, right? So as part of this core batch, now it will start from tomorrow, right? So from tomorrow onwards till February, again it is not like March or April. Earlier we used to keep the timetable till April. So this year we are ending it in February. So till February at least 1000 answers you are going to either write or get exposed to, right? And the way we have structured, there are 4 iterations. So you are aware of it, right? The first iteration is 10 questions, and then how many questions? Second 15, and then full length tests. So now some of you are coming and asking, should I join the core batch? Should I go ahead with the core batch? Because I am just taking coaching, or I just finished coaching, right? And I haven't done my optional. I am yet to complete my optional. So there are various categories of students. And to be honest, this program is for right? So it is for really ambitious people. I use the word ambitious because it really requires like everything you can give, right? Almost every 2 days you are going to write a test, coming to classroom and you are going to write a test on a regular basis. Most of you are not habituated, used to do something like this so far, right? You might have written once in a week test, right, earlier, maybe once in 10 days, 15 days, I am not sure. How many of you have written at least once in a week test in the last 1 year? So all of your OGP students, I think, right, good. So others who didn't raise hands? So once in a month or something? Have you written tests, at least mains tests? You have written, right? So what used to happen when when we started this institution, I started in a small building. At that time I used to get around 40-50 students. What they used to do was, and I used to be alone, literally alone at that time, right? There was no big classroom, big institution, big team and everything, because there was no teaching. We didn't have OGP program. So all I used to do was announce an entrance examination, make people write entrance examination, and I used to frame questions and conduct essay test, evaluate, and then select handful of them whom I could manage on day-to-day basis, and then give them almost everyday test. Actually at that time it was not once in 2 days, it used to be everyday test, and the students used to come and write the test. And after writing the test, what they used to do, I used to form groups based on common optional subject. So if there were 10 students belonging to public administration or geography, I would form groups, exchange their numbers between them, and then encourage them to discuss. So initially they started discussing every test. So after writing the test, they would put chairs in a round manner, right? And they would sit around, Kannada medium, like here and there some words miss out. So then they would exchange their answers and content, right? So all of them would prepare and come, and they would exchange any extra point or example or idea, argument, whatever they knew about it. So they would all exchange, and then they would note down. It used to be a continuous process. So it was very easy for me, like, so they would discuss everything, and few of them would come with their essays and answers and then get evaluated. So all of your toppers, like including Nandini KR and before them, DK Balaji, were author of ethics. So he used to be one among those crowds who used to write these tests and come and show his answers and essays regularly. So that was the process. It did a wonderful job in a way that it made the students truly independent in their preparation, right? And it also helped them bring originality in their answers, right? It was not like everyone was evaluated similarly and given similar feedback and asked to write thesis statement in every essay or write particular answer with this particular structure. It was not like that. So one individual would come to me, based on his or her strength or weakness, I would recommend something, and then they would go on to implement it. And during the group discussion, right, so they would discover that someone is far better than me, and then there is healthy competition. So they would go back and read or do extra hard work, and then next day try to contribute more to the group discussion instead of being a mere listener, mere mute spectator, right? So what this group discussion did was, eventually even those who didn't do well, who were not doing well in the earlier stages, even they started doing well because someone in the group was doing really well. So they cannot dominate throughout group discussions, one individual. It becomes it doesn't become a healthy process. So you will feel like you are kind of a parasite, and that person will start dominating, and then you will feel like I should also learn, I should also contribute. So this is one factor that eventually started missing out, right? So I consciously wanted to bring back this group discussion we introduced in Super OGP in Delhi and it is doing well. So they are every day discussing. So here in Bangalore, I want to bring back that culture, and you people should intensely, actively participate in group discussions. It is going to help immensely. The reason I am bringing back, there was 2016 was the peak year for Inside IAS when we got huge number of results, right? It was during that phase I used to see intense discussions going on. So I used to see Nandini KR and Dan Chand and so many people who got ranked that year, including Naveen Bhatt, you might have heard. So he is also IAS officer Karnataka. That year 3 or 4 people got insider Karnataka cadre IAS. So in top 100 we had around 6 Kannadigas, who got IAS that year. So what they used to do, they used to sit around in groups and discuss. So this, how do you do? Where are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? So tomorrow there is a test, right? And I will come to the part where how to prepare for each test and what to focus in each and every test. So just before that I want to say that after every test you have to, have we formed the groups or we are yet to form? Optional. So today by evening we will form groups, right? And then you will each know which optional other peers are available, and you will know their contact numbers as well. So after the test you find a space. It can be in the classroom, we have a test series center, or it can be wherever. So ellide jaga? Park? Right. So at that time we didn't have these tables, actually only chairs. So these people would make a round table type thing using chairs, and then should we remove these tables? Right. No, I think you can discuss like this also, like chair ee kade ulta hakanda ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾ? You can do this, right? Yeah, so you can do that, right? So I will see if the test can be arranged in this center or in OGP 1 center, so that after the test gets over you have to discuss. So how do you start discussion? What do you discuss in group discussion, right? So there should be one moderator in the group, right? So there are 10 questions. So first question you will pick up, right? So you will share what you have written, right? And another candidate will share what they have written in that answer, right? And once you start brainstorming, then you will realize that more points will start coming in the discussion, that some of the points that you have missed out. And the moment another person contributes certain points to the discussion, you will realize, yes, you had read them, but somehow you had missed in your answer. So when you repeat this process, right, in the next test, when you start writing next test, which is again within 2 days, so you will be conscious, right? Yeah, last time in that answer I had missed out certain points. So this time in this answer I have to think hard and think intensely and try to bring some more points. So eventually you will reach a point where the groups, everyone will start contributing, and the more and more quality improves. You will start referring to standard sources because you want to contribute more, because all the notes is exhausted, the notes which you already possess currently, and then you will be forced, you will be voluntarily motivated to start referring to standard textbooks. And precisely that is the demand of the examination nowadays, right? Those who are referring to standard sources, primary sources for every topic, are the ones who are able to get highest marks in either GS or even in essay paper as well, right? So no more just relying on Lakshmikant works. For polity, Indian polity, if you are referring only Lakshmikant, either for prelims or mains, it doesn't work anymore. You have to slightly diversify your sources, and it is a must, right? Now quality, have you seen the toppers copies? Rank 1, rank 2, rank 3. Last year, did you go through? So you should go through their copies, one thing and I am observing in rank 1, rank 2 is the quality plus structuring and presentation. These three factors, right, are top notch. First comes the content. In your answers, your primary focus must be always on the content. So what is content? So there is a question, there are multiple parts in the question, right. The question is seeking a particular demand from the aspirant, from the candidate, right. So what people do is that they have the tendency in the beginning to write what they know rather than what question is asking, right. So you have to avoid this mistake. So understand the demand of the question. The moment you understand the demand of the question, mentally you have to make structure of the question, how many parts are there in the question, and then for every part you should think of the best content, best relevant content, anything that immediately occurs in your mind, right. So you should judge whether it is obvious content or a specific content which is required for the demand of the question. You are getting this point. So what we end up writing most of the times is that the obvious point that comes to our mind. The reason we do it, because psychologically you are in the rush to complete the paper, right. Psychologically you are not conscious to complete the answer qualitatively, holistically. So what your mind is trying to do is that, okay, there are 10 questions, there is 1 hour, I need to write maximum number of answers, right. So you have to overcome, you have to avoid this mistake. It is a mistake. The reason is that because there are going to be 75 GS tests, there is no point in writing mechanical answers. Mechanical answers are those answers which you write for the sake of writing, right. You think that by writing maximum answers you will get more marks. You have to overcome this particular mindset, right. Eventually you will reach a point, like for example first question, so if it is 150 words, right, so we say that at least 8 points should be written for 150 words answers, maximum 10 points, minimum 8 points, even if there are 2 parts, 3 parts in a 150 word question. So my suggestion is that for all the 8 points there must be 8 justifications, right. Any point where you don't write example, justification, substantiation or evidence, you can call it in different illustration in some cases like geography, art and culture, right. So any point that is not justified or illustrated, right, is invalid. It is not validated. The point is not valid. The point in itself could be better, an idea, an argument, but if it is not justified, right, you are losing out marks. So that is why out of 10 marks it is impossible to give beyond 6 marks. You cannot satisfy, maybe you can satisfy only when you write a complete answer with all the arguments related to the question, with all the justifications. So what do I mean by good content is that ensure that for 150 word answer there are 10 points and there are 10 examples. Only after writing 10 points, 10 example, you move to another question, even if it takes 15 minutes to write one answer or 20 minutes to write one answer in the beginning, right. See, you are in the month of July, right, you are not about to write mains, you are not about to write this year mains. So to panic that, if I am spending 15 minutes or 20 minutes per answer, when am I going to complete the paper? I promise you, standing here, right, by December, if you write every test, you will be in a position to write at least 6 answers out of 10 questions qualitatively. By January, you will be writing 18 answers out of 20 questions without any struggle. You will easily write. If you write every test as part of the core batch, by January you will write 18 answers out of 20 questions. It will happen, it will so naturally, seamlessly, organically it will happen, right. Like this is very important point. This is one mistake I keep observing when you are writing mains, like when you are, like for example, if you are about to write 23 mains, Okay, you have content, you have knowledge, you can rush to complete the paper, right? Most of you who are about to start journey tomorrow, are you kind of beginners, right? For this whole answer writing process, even if you have written weekly test, now the race is to write 18 to 19 quality answers out of 20. So when you write quality content, your ambition should be to score 120 to 130 marks in one GS paper out of 20 questions when it is full length paper, right? On an average, it should be 5.5 to 6 marks. So even if you write 5 answers, the minimum average should be 5.5 to 6 marks. That is going to be your target. That must be your target. So there is no point in scoring 2 marks or 3 marks, right? Out of 10 questions, you will know answer to at least 3 to 4 questions. Out of 10 questions, at least for 3 to 4 questions, you will know exact answers. You will not know answer to all the questions. So as soon as you get the question paper, choose those 3 to 4 questions where you can write the best answer, right? It's okay to spend entire 1 hour to answer these 3 to 4 answers. And don't be in a competition mode, to write more. So that is inherited from your education system, right? To write more, to complete more, So here it is going to be, what we have given the tagline is something called incremental excellence, right? Achieving excellence incrementally. So there is no need to, jump the gun, achieve everything suddenly. Let it happen naturally, eventually, incrementally, organically, right? So is this point clear to you? So that is the content part, right? Content is, so I am just giving a general idea about it. I am not illustrating with a question here, so that you will eventually later. So for a question, if it is 15 marks, we expect you to write at least 15 points, right? 15 different points. So if you are writing 15 points, my expectation is 15 different examples. Any geography answer, writing geography answer without minimum 2 diagrams is invalid again. Every geography answer, right? Wherever you can use creativity, not just geography, wherever you can use creativity, right? It can be to come up with a creative point or to illustrate that point creatively. It can be diagrammatic representation, right? It can be a flow chart, right? It can be a graph. Have you come across the book which we released recently by Sirivennela IPS? So my recommendation is to buy that book, right? So you may be investing 350 rupees or something. My personal suggestion, I have gone through that book, otherwise we wouldn't publish it, right? That book is really good, and in fact he has given certain illustrations, how to bring originality, how to improve the presentation of your answers, right? What is good answers, what are the common mistakes that you should avoid while doing answer writing practice. So buy that book, and maybe you can follow the certain charts and diagrams that he has given to illustrate, to use in your answers. Creativity is must. If you want to differentiate from the rest of the competition, right? Creativity is must, and it is in the presentation aspect that creativity comes into picture. So I have seen many people writing answers for the sake of answer writing. They just go on writing with disregard for aesthetics. Aesthetics is how your answer looks, how your answer is presented, right? So never disregard, never ignore aesthetics of your answers, right? So it is not your typical university examination. So there they have patience, there they can read your answers, but here ultimately this competition seeks to test every quality of your individuality, your personality, right? Your university exam is most concerned about your intellectual capacity. Here this exam is not just worried about your intellectual stuff, it also seeks to test your personality in prelims as well, in mains, of course in personality test. So A neat presentation of your answers indicates your discipline, your organization skills, right? Your creativity, problem solving skills, right? How would you like to communicate your ideas in a simple, most effective manner? So that you should not disregard. Ideally, you should evolve your own way of writing, your own way of presenting answers, ideally, right? So that I think this core batch gives you that opportunity. First iteration, what it is there, treat it as an experiment, right? So experiment, don't worry about marks. You may end up with 0 marks, you may end up with negative marks, you may end up with excellent marks, but try to experiment, right? Try to experiment with diagrams, whatever it is, flow charts, and try to get such kind of illustrations, presentation from maybe like I can just refer to, I don't know, if somebody is writing in Harvard University or Oxford or Cambridge or foreign big universities, right? So there may be certain ways people are communicating, their essays. They usually all these 150 word to 250 word to beyond 250 word answers are called as essay type questions, right? So you can just Google individually what is the best way to write essay type questions, illustrate essay type questions. And when you are presenting, when you are writing, the primary focus is on telling more in minimum words, communicating more in minimum possible words. So you don't have to be descriptive. You can easily avoid unnecessary redundant words in your answers, right? So that in 150 words you have packed maximum impactful content, right? I mean that is the quality of a bureaucrat. You speak less, right? But when you speak less, it conveys more, right? That is what you have seen, right? IAS officer don't speak much. They are not allowed to speak much, right? In fact, they should not speak much. But when they speak, it should make an impact. It should be impactful. It should be profound. So that quality you have to develop in your writing, and eventually in the interview also it applies, right? In the interview you are given 30 to 40 second opportunity to express yourself for the question that they have asked, right? And in the 30 to 40 seconds you have to really convey more, right, compared to all your competitors. And I believe it starts from 3 processes. One is, of course, reading is there, leave it. Writing, right, thinking while writing and before writing, and then discussing. If this process continues, your interview preparation is done, 1 year before your interview. It is done because you have to open your mouth in group discussions. Everyone should participate for a question. That is also an interview type of question, right? So there are 10 questions. So most of the questions could be interview type questions, right? If some of you can contribute to that question in 30 to 40 seconds, and you should be conscious. See, are you listening to me, right? So when you are contributing to that answer in the group discussion, be conscious that what you are saying, is it really making sense? In the beginning it doesn't make sense, in the beginning, because most of you are not habituated to that, right? But that should not stop you from contributing, right? Don't be a mere listener, mere consumer in the group. Eventually you should open up, and the more you take initiative, the more you start speaking, that quality of contributing, that quality of articulation, exposition, that exposition word is there, clear and precise exposition. In interview, that paragraph that is there in notification, that is also one of the qualities that is tested. That exposition you have to improve, and it is your very good opportunity. Otherwise you don't get that opportunity as part of the coaching initiative, right? So if at all you are discussing during your coffee break, what do you discuss? Or your lunch break, what do you usually discuss? Chandra layout gossips. One? Acha, why tomato price has increased? Right. Okay, that is a GS discussion, right? Today morning I was reading, a news. A farmer has made 3 crore profit by growing tomatoes. You must be thinking like, staying 1 year in Bangalore, that too in 12 acres. In 12 acres, he has made profit of 3 crores. So it motivates, like just go back and become farmer. Right. Presentation also includes good handwriting. Anybody who has poor handwriting, please go back. Anybody who has very poor handwriting, don't dream about IAS. Right. I really mean it. This, since 2014, I have been observing, and last 2 years, again it has become very prominent. Poor handwriting, right? Handwriting with legibility is okay. Handwriting with legibility, handwriting which I can read without any difficulty, it's fine, don't get scared, right? But handwriting where there is illegibility, which I cannot decipher, which I cannot read, where I struggle to read. If some of you belong to that category, it is better to take handwriting classes, right? Mere dreaming of becoming IAS officer without taking care of the basics, right? Language is a very powerful medium, right? And if the language you are writing, if it is not understood, so what is the point of writing all the stuff? So you will understand, and your professor would have understood it. But in UPSC there is no incentive for evaluator to be empathetic towards you, right? Because a competitor has written far better than you, right? The presentation is good, the content is good, right? So it's a competition. How do you give gold medal to someone in any competition? So you measure, there are certain parameters in every competition, right? So if it is a running, it is matter of few seconds, right? So if it is a high jump or long jump, it is a matter of few inches or centimeters of height, right? So if it is answer writing competition, so there are parameters, and don't carry your university mindset here. Your poor handwriting is punished and there is penalty for it. 2 years ago I saw minus 75 marks in one of the mark sheet. Minus 75 marks. You know that there is penalty for poor writing, irrelevant writing, or any extra writing. Like Om, Shri. I am student from Kannada medium. Excuse my English, right? Like some people write letter to evaluator also in the end. In UPSC I haven't seen that, like very rarely some people do it. But I am talking about handwriting here. How many of you have poor handwriting here? Very good. Two people. All others have beautiful handwriting. So how many of you have beautiful handwriting? So good. So others have? You have legible handwriting. Good. But if possible to make that legible handwriting beautiful, right? So don't hesitate, put extra efforts to make it beautiful. This is competition, remember, right? And as years pass, I am seeing that I'll give you a test. Last 10 years, first rank copies, right? You download and you check their handwriting. Last 10 years, first rank holders, download their copies and check their handwriting, right? So 90% of them have beautiful handwriting. Maybe 1 or 2 here and there, but 90% of them have really beautiful handwriting, in addition to having really great content, right? So these things people won't tell you, when they are evaluating, when they are in your day-to-day discussion, these are taken for granted, right? Because that is how we have written so far in your 15 years of education or 16 years of education, right? So don't carry it forward here. So when you write test tomorrow, begin to start changing your handwriting if it is really not good. And I am repeating this handwriting thing again and again because this is really very important, very very important. You won't realize it. And I know people with poor handwriting and extremely good content, better than Nandini, better than any other rank one, staying out of the competition. And they are doing better in business and other thing. Anyway, they are smart. But if their handwriting, if it was good, they would have got a rank in top 10. I know at least 3 such candidates from my past 9 years of experience. I couldn't really read what they used to write. Right. So one essay copy would take 1.5 hours to read one essay. So otherwise I read it here 5 to 10 minutes. Usually when somebody brings copy, it is like 5 to 10 minutes. Because of being in this process of again and again, like you just glance through, you know what to expect and what is written in the essay. So don't make it difficult for evaluators, right? Coming to the structure, the third aspect, one is content, presentation, third is the structuring. So structuring involves how strategically you are allowing or allocating space for each of the parts, right? Weightage allocation. If the question may be just simple statement and discuss, right? So I want to know how you have divided the question into multiple parts based on the directive word, right? So are you aware of these directive words, right? Discuss, analyze, comment, examine, critically comment, critically discuss, and then elaborate, elucidate, enumerate, justify, substantiate, right? So 4 are very important. One is discuss, right? And then the analyze, third one is the examine, and then comment. So comment, examine, analyze, discuss. So these 4 are frequently seen. In addition to explain or elucidate. Discuss is at the apex, right? Discuss in terms of directive words. In question there are 2 parts. One, there is topic, the statement, and another one is the directive word. It is called as the directive word, the word discuss or analyze. The purpose of the directive word is to direct you to write in a certain way based on your understanding of the topic of the question. It is actually directing you. It is not like in essay there is no directive word. In essay they will never give you directive word. There is no direction in essay. Essay is freedom. Essay seeks to understand your own thinking process, your own original thinking process. Essay seeks to know your individuality, right? Your own opinion. So there is no directive word. So you can discuss, analyze, comment, do everything in essay. But in these answers there is a precise directive word. So if it is discuss, it means be as holistic as possible. The question might not have asked the challenges, you have to write challenges. The question might not have asked the way forward, you have to write way forward, but very briefly, right? First you have to address the demand of the question. And if it is discuss, you have to bring, most of the questions will have a slight background, right? Few concepts will be there. In addition to background, you need to write the definitions of those concepts, and then you have to justify, right, the question. If it is a statement, whether you may agree or you may disagree with the statement, you have to justify, and then you have to write challenges and then the way forward. So these are the broad components. If it is discuss, try to write all of them. If it is analyze, you don't have to write way forward and challenges. What you have to write is, you have to divide question into multiple parts. What is the definition of analysis? What is the definition of analysis? So analysis is close examination of a topic by dividing it into parts and then establishing a relationship between those parts, right. So analysis includes a very close examination of the topic, why and how. These two questions are very important when you analyze, right. Only by asking why and how you can closely examine. So in analysis, ensure that there are multiple parts in the question and each part seeks to give the reasoning, right, the why part, and followed by the justification and briefly the how part, right. So with maybe in later, the teacher will explain you with question, but I am just briefly talking about it. The third one is examine. So examine is what? Closely examining. You may not write why and how, you have to just examine why this particular question is asked in a certain way, maybe give reasoning itself, no need to go beyond reasoning part. Comment is where you have to give your opinion explicitly, right. So explicit expression of your opinion is part of the comment. And whenever there is critically, the word critically comment, critically examine, critically analyze, what is the meaning of critical here in questions? Positives and negatives, right. So how do you put it in another word? What is the meaning of critical? So critical observation is objective observation. Now you are being objective here. You are not leaving out, you are not biased basically, right. Critical analysis or critical examination includes being objective in your assessment, right. That means looking at both positive and negative sides of it, right. So don't divide your answer as positive and negative, right. When there is critical, when it is asking you to critically comment, critically examine, you have to convince me that this question may have only the positive aspects or it has certain few negative aspect also, right, or it may have more negative implications. But don't divide your answer equally into 4 positive point and 4 negative point. So even if that question doesn't have, that topic in the question doesn't have negative side, so just because there is a word critically, so don't bring the negative side. You write a statement, right, that this for example demonetization, right. So critically examine. It has both positive and negative, maybe in equal measure, right. So Jal Jeevan Mission, for example, Jal Jeevan Mission, critically analyze, maybe its implementation, its objectives, right. So here it will have more, maybe it will have more positive, less negative if it is implemented really well, right. But positive in terms of its intention, its noble objective, right, of addressing the rural drinking water issues or even the sanitation issue indirectly, right. So that is how you have to divide instead of mechanically dividing into positive and negative. So even though it is 150 word answer, 250 word answer, you have to communicate, right. Communication means writing a bridge sentence between the parts. So now you have to see that despite these positives, right, or despite these noble intentions, the scheme suffers from certain drawbacks as follows. People don't write this statement, they write positive underline, negative underline, mechanical, right. Did you get this point? So that brings coherence in your answer even though it is 150 word answer or 250 word answer. So with respect to introduction and conclusion, they should be as broad as possible, right. Introduction, most of the people have the habit of writing only definition, right. So some people write a random fact, quote a random report. So can you just give me any question here, like ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೊಡಿ. ಡು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್?
Safeguarding the Indian art heritage is the need of the moment.
Okay. Safeguarding the Indian heritage, art and heritage, or
Indian art heritage is the need of the moment.
safeguarding Indian art and heritage is the need of the moment. Right. It's a small question. Which is the broadest keyword here? Art or heritage? Or safeguarding? Safeguarding Indian art heritage, not art and heritage. Okay, art heritage is need of the hour, right? So if the question was safeguarding Indian culture as well as its art heritage is need of the hour, which is the broad word here? Culture or heritage? No, safeguarding is saving, preserving or protecting. But which is the broad word here? Culture. If I add the word culture, culture is the most universal concept in the question, right? So next comes heritage and then maybe art. Again, heritage is a collection of all the art and whatever you have created as part of the culture. It can be practices, processes, visible art, visual art, performing arts, right? And then there is culture, amalgamation of everything, all our, including human behavior, human conduct, human customs, human practices, right? All of them combined together. So now when you write introduction, right, the introduction should ideally touch the culture aspect, right? Now don't write a specific point about art or heritage, right? So you should be a broad line writing something about culture. For example, preserving culture and art heritage is the need of the hour. So what one line or two line introduction you can think of, keeping culture at the core of that particular line. Can you just come up with a line? The question demand is, the need of the hour is to safeguard our culture and art and heritage. Again, don't define. Okay. So through culture we express our art. Okay. Okay, but again you are not talking anything regarding safeguarding, right? That is the demand of the question. How do you combine that also when you are talking about culture? Can you just write one line like in your notebooks, think and write and then read it. So you know the question, the need of the hour is to safeguard Indian culture and its art and heritage. Maybe let us say discuss is the directive word. So that is the directive word here. Okay. Art and Good. But culture. So that line is very good, but
Sir, culture is the heart of any civilization, which includes one's socio-political, religious, art, and economic aspect which wants the civilization to bring. For example, we have this civilization.
good.
Culture is a traditional practice which comes with a collection of art and heritage, which takes over the legacy and it should be safeguarded for the future generations.
Okay, the legacy is the key word. Yours is civilization. So why you need to preserve? So that one broad idea also you should embed in that sentence.
Culture holds significance to evolution of human thought and analyzing it is crucial to solve current challenges.
First line,
Culture holds significance to evolution of human thought.
very good.
Analyzing it is crucial to solve current challenges.
Good. Hmm. Good.
Culture is the age-old concept which are developed from Indus Valley civilization till now which have all pursued the
Okay, but again you are just defining the culture. So they have also included certain idea about why we need to safeguard.
Indian art heritage is a window to the culture of any society. Needs to be preserved in the wake of different forces which are diverting attention from the same. For example, loss of many high heritage sites currently in India, according to reports.
So try to make it even more broad. Okay. So it need not be India specific also, even though question is India specific, but culture and the concept of art itself it can be broadened.
In question it mentions the Indian.
Yeah, that is there. Maybe last line you can add it as part of the India, second line. See, they gave certain hint. Anybody has written one more? Hmm. Hmm.
Some and as it belongs to certain set of people living in a multicultural globalization.
Okay. Okay. So you're bringing globalization here.
So culture is human-centric and its protection and continuation is necessary for human development and prosperity.
Human prosperity and development. It's good.
Sir, deconstruct the present with the help of past legacy collective spirit.
Deconstruct present.
With the help of past values spirit, collective spirit expression.
Very good.
Yes, during the past is our inherent part of life, and the onus lies on us to preserve these rich values from culture, art.
Good.
India seems a melting pot of cultures with historical roots. Recent events including tribal conflicts, deterioration of historical knowledge, etc., has been showing the decline of India's rich heritage now. So there is a need to preserve.
Okay, so you're bringing a current affair dimension and linking it. See, we have heard like few very good keywords here. So I'll just try to maybe combine. Maybe you can think in this direction. Culture. So he talked about thought. He talked about civilization. She talked about amalgamation of. No, she. What did you say? What was your first line? Next. Yeah. Evolution of human thought, right? So I can add identity to that also, right? So what you can write is that, so culture, being the symbol or being the identity, right? Or something that continues, civilizational aspects, right? The human thought of the collective human thought, our human consciousness or thinking that we have evolved together, right, needs preservation, because we can combine his answer, because it has a significance or it has a solution to our present problems or issues. You got it? So culture being amalgamation of human thought, or which carries forward an identity of a civilization, right, holds significance and it needs safeguarding because it is our solution provider for all of our modern problems or something. You got it? So the line is also broad, right? And you are not specifically, then you can in your answer in the body, you can talk about the specific aspects, art, heritage, cultural elements, right? All the examples and all. Similarly, the conclusion should also be broad. The conclusion should look into the future, right? And the conclusion ideally should be optimistic. So many people ask what should be there in the conclusion, whether it is essay or whether it is GS answers. Ensure that conclusion is a bit futuristic and optimistic. So you think of a line, maybe this question, right? So you see if there is a ray of hope using technology or using artificial intelligence or using any solution that we ourselves have evolved, which is actually preserving our culture, right? So maybe that thing you can write, or if you are hopeful that in the future, the coming generation, the present generation, or if you believe that there is rising awakening consciousness among our people, that the human culture is at the core of the human development. Again, human development aspect also can be integrated. Who said that human development? Yeah, very good. So that human development aspect also, maybe that also you can bring in the conclusion. So the idea is simple. Introduction should be broad. After writing broad introduction, then define your culture or art and heritage, right? After introduction comes the definition. So definition of concepts, and if the question doesn't carry a concept, right, as a keyword, you have to identify what is the concept in the, for example, there was a topic, essay topic. It is better to repair your roof when the sun is shining. There is no keyword per se in the topic. There is no concept. You don't see a concept like wisdom or knowledge or something. Sun is not a concept. Sun is a object, right? Repairing the roof, right? So what is the concept in the question?
Doing right things at right time. Doing right things at right time.
One word. Preparedness. Okay. Awareness. Very good. Timeliness.
Be
Be
sensible.
sensible. Be sensible. Being sensible. Presence of mind. That is also good. Opportunist. No.
Consciousness.
No, you don't call it as opportunistic. What is the right word? Because opportunistic has negative connotation.
Consciousness. Being conscious.
Being conscious. No, okay, it's a good thing here, right? Like, what do you call somebody who uses right opportunity at the right moment? Time? Okay. Now I am asking this question because opportunistic is negative, right? Like he was opportunistic. At the expense of someone else, he made certain profit. That is opportunistic. But if somebody used opportunity wisely, judicious, no, you go and find the word, right? So fine. So there are different keywords in the topic. Again, the idea was in the question there are no keywords, concepts. You have identified them, right? So after the introduction comes this process of very briefly defining the concept in the question to let me know, evaluator, that your concepts are clear to you. So without making your concepts clear, if you build your answer, right, sometimes it actually serves two purposes. By you yourself will be clear whether you know the concept or not, and then it actually helps you to go on to build your answer. Second one, when you write the concept, for me it's a happy moment in a way that anybody who touches the basics before building the advanced part of the answer, right, it is always impressive. So you speak to people, anybody who speaks the basics and then moves to its application part. Advanced is nothing but its application or its other dimensions, right? So then actually they impress a lot. So you have to write the basics. The third component is the background, right? Here the background can be a fact, example. Again, it should be very brief. They are not the core demand of the question, but essential parts of the answer, right? To build your answer, you are still building the answer, right? They are building blocks. That is the basic foundation. 3 components: introduction, concepts, and the little background. So you should be done within the first, the 1/3 space of your script, right? The first 1/3 space of the script. So then immediately comes the first subheading, hitting the demand of the question. So sometimes the question itself will give line, right? First explain something, then examine consequences, then it asks you to write solutions or something, right? So based on that you have to write different parts, and then comes the conclusion, right? So these are the brief elements. When you write answers, you should be aware of it. You should be aware of these parts and the quality, the way introduction you are writing. I am very particular about introduction because introduction for me is window to your way of thinking, right? Your personality also. If you have mature thinking, analytical thinking, critical thinking, even deep thinking, so that is evident in your introduction. The more you have read, the more you have thought about that particular topic before writing the answer, it is evident in your introduction, right? Sometimes for me introduction is enough to make my mind, right? Sometimes you can just impress them totally with a very good introduction. So to write very good introduction, you should have a keen eye when you read your editorials, right? And when you read your NCERT chapters, or when you read, that is why reading standard sources is of paramount importance. So that is where you get these introductory lines. When you read reports, when you read, like it can be a RBI paper on a fiscal policy, or rising tomato price or something. So they write introduction thoughtfully, right? So observe introductions. Ensure that your introduction serves a purpose. The purpose is, right, revealing your way of thinking. So mere definition, it's a very easy way out. Writing the definition means you are writing the second part of the answer, not the first part of the answer. Is it clear? Okay. So now comes the important part. How are you going to approach the preparation itself? Like tomorrow there is a test. What are you going to read for the test? What is the syllabus for tomorrow's test? Modern India. Like, have we specified topics, or is it entire modern India? What are the topics? 18? No, one, somebody tell me. So we have specified topics. Can somebody read?
Fall of Mughals, advent of Europeans in India, India under Indian countries to Indian kingdoms in the 18th century, Marathas, Punjab, Mysore. Marathas, Punjab, Mysore, Hyderabad.
Okay. So that much. For the first test, that is the syllabus. Okay. And then the current affairs. Okay. So I was thinking it is even more than that. It's more. There are subtopics within that, no? So that is fine. Okay. So now the fall of Mughal Empire. So that is the first topic. Fall of Mughals, right? So how are you going to approach this topic for tomorrow's test? What are you going to read? So like as a first instance, what are you going to read? Your notes or NCERTs, and then notes. Okay. So are you going to read end to end entire NCERT? So that also we have specified, right? Chapter wise. Good. So ideally that should be done, but considering the time constraint, so my suggestion is that, so based on previous year prelims questions, as well as previous year mains questions, right. First time make a list of all the Mughal related questions that were part of previous year questions, including prelims, right, including prelims. Make a list. Second one, refer to last 3 to 4 years history optional question paper. History optional question paper, and refer to Mughal related questions, right. If the Mughal related question is too specific, ignore it, right. If the Mughal question is bit broad and can be asked in a GS paper, you will be able to judge it, right. You will be able to judge even in history optional questions. A question could be asked in a GS paper if it is broad. Like if it is too specific, if it is asking the works of Shah Jahan and all the names and their implications and what they did, inspiration for him, other things, that is like too specific. In GS we don't expect it. So in GS what we expect is from the time of Babur to Bahadur Shah, all the work that was art that was created, maybe your comment is going to be bit broad, right. So think of, see those questions and make a list of topics. Third, make interlinkages, right. Now the Mughal questions we won't ask only from the historical perspective. We can ask them the contemporary perspective, cultural perspective. Within culture it can be art. So we can link history with the art and culture part, right. We can link history with the economy part also. So there is a issue of reparation, right, colonial reparation. That recent Shashi Tharoor article was there in the Hindu, that should we seek compensation by the colonial powers for all the loot they have done, should we seek back. So that might have economic significance also, it might have a foreign policy significance also in GS paper 2 and then in GS paper 3 as well, right. So the point is, so don't look at questions linearly, unidimensionally, right. So within them try to ensure linkages only logically. Now I cannot link it artificially with maybe security issues or Mughal art with environment. It is difficult to establish a relationship, right. Maybe with technology I can, with technology like artificial intelligence or computer technology, with respect to recreating their art or studying their history properly, digging evidences, something with respect to technology, but not with other parts, right. The ethics, I won't look into link with the ethics part, right. Aurangzeb for example, right. Is it ethical to rename Aurangzeb Marg as APJ Abdul Kalam Marg? We can discuss in private, but I don't think UPSC will ask such questions. Maybe we can think about it, right. So see the intelligence, a Muslim name only, but so it's a different name. So what do you think? Was it a right decision? Yes or no? How many of you yes? It's not recorded anywhere. Okay, only 3, 4. So then all of you say no. How many of you know? The question is, was it right decision to rename Aurangzeb Marg in Delhi as APJ Abdul Kalam Marg? How many of you agree it was right? How many of you disagree? What? So like abstention, like abstaining from it. You don't want to take a stance. Fine. So let us not touch political issues, right? Controversial issues. Now the point was how to minimize the sources, right? To minimize the sources, to prepare for the test, you should know what is the most important topic, right? So always previous year questions give you the hint. Prelims, GS, mains, GS1 questions, and history optional, but be very careful, don't get carried away, right? Only GS type of questions, the broad question, the example I gave. The fourth one is any history related question or Mughal related question that was in news in the last 2 to 3 years. Last 2 to 3 years, any Mughal related issue or topic that was there in last 2 to 3 years, not 1 year, 2 to 3 years. You can just Google, like maybe Mughal insights IAS, insights on India. In our website, we would have asked a question in secure, Mughal secure insights on India. Mughal, the Hindu 2022, right? So when you search something like this, you will get articles related to Mughal. It can be related to art, it can be related to again some of the architecture, maybe some architecture is in danger and the Hindu might have reported about it, right? Or there may be a new book that was released on Mughals. There would have been a book review in Sunday magazine, right? Even that is also source. That is also source for a question, right? So you search those things. So all of this is half an hour to 1 hour work. It doesn't take much time. 1 hour work. So then study only those topics, right? From NCERT and from your notes. So my suggestion is to study only. It's okay to leave out certain parts in the first iteration. You will again come to the second iteration later and third iteration again later. So at that time you can read the missed out syllabus or missed out topics in the first test. So don't try to complete syllabus. That is also mistake, because when you try to complete, you don't come to the test retaining what you have read, right? Because that wouldn't give you opportunity to revise, right? Or think about those questions. So it is better to invest like 6 to 8 hours in knowing answer to these questions and then 2 hours to revise them and then come to the test. So this process will actually help you to write better answers, you will realize. And some of the questions will be straightforward. The what you have done will be, so as a setter of the question paper, I will be doing the similar process, right? I am going to do the same thing. I am not going to randomly pick questions from random chapters, right? So this is what you need to do. Okay, is it clear? So if you do this, you will actually study satisfactorily, because that is the complaint we get. So in 1 day, in 2 days I was not able to complete the syllabus for the test. So I left all the questions, I left 8 questions, justification for leaving out the questions. So it's okay to leave out certain things, again you will be revisiting. And from January, February, when you read for prelims, again you will read history, right? And the program was actually intended for people who have completed everything, optional, GS, notes making, everything, so that you can quickly revise, come and practice, discuss and then get the feedback. The third aspect is, so we are not going to evaluate, because these many tests it is impossible to evaluate. It is literally impossible. Even if you give fees, even if I charge fees, right, it is impossible to evaluate within 4 or 5 days, one copy. And by the time that copy comes, 3-4 tests are over, right? It doesn't actually serve any purpose. So that is why the group discussion, and then we are going to give based on the number like 3 extra mentors, right, for a group of 40 students or 50 students. So to them you can go and show 1 or 2 answers, not the entire. Don't ask them to evaluate entire copy. Just ask them to see the content, is it optimal, up to the level, is my presentation good, right? Because you would have figured out in your group discussion, the way I asked one question to some of you, the introduction, 5-6 people contributed really good answers. I was really happy, they were thoughtful answers, right? Similar thing will happen in group discussions, right? You will eventually get to know the good ways of writing answers. So that becomes your primary source. So don't miss out on this. And when you are doing group discussion, keep your ego aside, right? So everyone is learning, even if you have completed everything, even if you have got rank, even if you have got given interview previously, behave like you are total fresher, as if you are learning. You have to contribute learn, contribute, learn. It's always a two-way process. Some people act, as if especially if there are girls in the group. Right. No, I have seen that. Right. So girls don't do that, boys do it. Boys are like, right. Or you got offended or what? Girls. No. So any doubts so far? And I am going to promise, if anybody writes all the 91 tests of core batch, you are going to be there in top 10 or top 20 or top 100, provided you take care of prelims. Secondly, provided you take care of optional. Right. Rest, I am very confident. And monthly once we will be having a session about reality check, discussing the progress, right? And the classroom won't be this much full in the next month. It gradually, decreases. The reason is, consistency is not everyone's cup of tea or coffee or rum or wine. It is not. So it belongs to only very few people. Consistency. So my suggestion, I speak about this in orientation everywhere. Even when somebody comes for evaluation, I keep asking, you came last week, another week you were. They blame on me, but still, I ask why you are not regular, right? So this is an enigma for me. So in this session, all of you have come, because you have come to this session because you believe you can get rank 1 or top 10. Right now you believe, or before entering you believed, right? Or while walking out you believe. So you have a dream, you want to get IAS, so you came and sat here, right? The moment this process starts, the difficult process, right? The filtration happens, the filtering. Some of you will find excuses, right? Maybe optional, maybe something else, and then slowly start staying away from this process. So all the ranks which we have got are from those people who actually completed the process, at least 80%. Minimum is 80%, maximum is 100%. So 80% of 91 tests you calculate. You can miss now and then 1 or 2 tests, it's okay. For example, you may have an optional test, you may want to study something important for optional, or you may have to give another exam. You keep giving other exams, it's okay. So during that time you can miss out 1 or 2 days, but 80% of the test have your target as must be completed, right? So otherwise, no, it actually does wonders to your preparation. So you don't realize it. I have seen it. I have observed it. The fear of answer writing will vanish. The speed will improve. The quality of your answers will improve. And you will start writing answers in your dreams. Really. And you will think of an answer on the go. After 2 to 3 months, the questions become irrelevant. For every question you will know answer. You will know to create answer. You look at the question, okay, this is what I have to write. So now you are not struggling to think of structure or anything. You know the answer. You just write it. So it comes to writing more better answer. Writing more relevant content, writing more specific content. So for that, this precise preparation, the filtered preparation, as well as refer to standard sources. For example, keep an eye on all important. For example, if there is any environment SNT question, so keep your Down to Earth magazine or National Geography website, right? So keep referring to them. Don't just rely on the Hindu or anyone newspaper. Keep an eye. Now like Chandrayaan happened, right? So Chandrayaan, did you make notes on that Chandrayaan thing? So what notes? So there was a question last year in SNT. Now if I ask a question, how Chandrayaan 3 is an improvement over Chandrayaan 1? Was there Chandrayaan 1? It was Chandrayaan 3, right? Yeah. So how Chandrayaan 3 technologically improvement over Chandrayaan 1? Can you answer that question now? You can answer. Tell me. Chandrayaan 1 was? Okay.
Right now we are trying to land on the moon.
Mhm.
Land on some rover mission.
Mhm.
So there we have made significant technological advancements, sir, because
Hmm.
landing on the moon is some huge challenge.
Now your first point is related to objective. Now what is the technological improvement?
In terms of the engine used,
Hmm.
spacecraft,
Hmm.
and also the software.
Now of course you might have forgot the specifics, but if you have made notes, it's very good, right? So that is why you have to think, right? Spatially, temporally, right? So they don't ask linearly in UPSC question, right? And also comparison with maybe other moon missions with from China or US, right? So what is their technology and what is our technology? What is indigenous about our technology? What is indigenous about their technology? Is there any kind of collaboration, right? So when you study something like that, so then only you are able to, you are actually fully prepared. Otherwise, you know about Hubble telescope or Mark Webb telescope. The question was that Mark Webb telescope, how is it an improvement over previous space telescopes? So people wrote about Mark Webb telescope. They would have forgotten, they would have read at that time about Hubble and other telescopes, but they would have forgotten the specifics. So now the question is demanding. So you explain chronologically, what are the improvements that are made. So if you have forgotten, then, so even when you study now, keep going back. Similarly, there was a question about how the our environment consciousness, the Kyoto Protocol, from Kyoto Protocol to Paris Agreement to recent, what is that? The recent agreement, last 2 months ago, the Chinese city name, what is that? Kunming, yeah, Kunming, Montreal, right? Kunming, Montreal. So, how our thinking has evolved, how our targets, right? How our problems have evolved from that time to this time. So, if you have made notes from that perspective, you are well prepared for these kind of questions, right? So, current affair questions, the second aspect of it is purely follow the secure initiative, right? So, all the secure questions of past 1 week, so we are going to ask 2 to 3 questions. So, glance through the synopsis. Coming to essay paper, right? When you start writing essays, I am sure most of you haven't written any essays so far, right? How many of you have written essays? Oh wow, good. That's a good number. So that's why I am very proud about Insight Series. No, if I ask the same question in another institution, in another city, I am sure people won't raise hands like this in the entire classroom. Like almost everybody raised hands here, at least 70%. And most of you, I have seen your essays, I have evaluated, right? So, coming to essay, the present trend is again, the way essay paper is designed is to ensure that you don't behave, you don't write something predictable, right? It is to break the predictability, right, that people bring in their content. The essay paper is designed, so which means to test your individual thinking, your presence of mind, your creativity, right, your ability to look at an abstract topic and create an organized, right, a content which actually makes sense. The topic might sound abstract. For example, there is a topic last year, the last topic. So just because you have so many choices, that doesn't mean any choice is right, right. Another question is, so when you cannot step into river, you cannot step into same river twice. So it's an abstract topic. You cannot step into same river twice. So it's open to interpretation, though it has a specific meaning that, it's basically about change, right? Things around you change, people around you change, circumstances around you change. You cannot expect yourself to be the same. Again, you also have changed, your thinking has changed, you have evolved, right? So if you are thinking that you are stepping into a situation, similar situation, no, you are wrong. It has changed, right? So because the river has moved. So when you had stepped into a river, right? It's not a pond. Even the pond also goes through change, right? The water which was there, it is gone to maybe underground. A new water might have emerged. It has muddied or something, right? So there is constant change happening, right? So now we have to create 1200 word content for this topic. Now you know the meaning in 2 to 3 lines, right? So you have to create 1200 words. So that is why I said that essay is freedom. So it gives you freedom to express yourself. It can be total creativity, right? Based on your literary skills. If you are good with English writing, English literature, you can bring all the stuff, right? So what I encourage for those kind of topics is that you have to be good with at least some amount of English literature, right? Or Hindi literature or Kannada literature in general, right? But some amount of English literature you should be aware of. You should have knowledge about literature. See, this is something you study in art and culture. Literature is part of your art and culture syllabus. You have read what Krishna Deva Raya wrote, right? You have read what Kautilya wrote or what all our philosophers and kings, other authors and poets in the past. You have memorized, right, for prelims. But I don't see them in any of your essays. I don't see anyone writing Krishna Deva Raya's works or Kalidasa works, right, being mentioned in any of the essays. I haven't seen it so far. So what they mention is Sudhamurti, right? Earlier they used to mention, what is that idiot? I mean, author of 2 Idiots. Huh? What? So, no, he's not idiot. His contribution to literature is immense, huge. So he made people read books and stop at his books, right? So that was his contribution. Yeah. So earlier people used to mention them also. So straight away 10, 5, 0, right? So now the expectation is different. I want you to mention, like Leo Tolstoy, maybe Amitav Ghosh, Salman Rushdie, Arundhati Roy, right? Anita Desai. So there are many people from India who have won Booker Prize, right? And like it can be Rabindranath Tagore also. Rabindranath Tagore, everybody has this favorite poem, where the mind is without fear, right? That comes in the conclusion. They memorize that poem. Now they have like all the Rabindranath Tagore literature I have read. So I will impress the evaluator that I have read Rabindranath Tagore literature. Right? He has written novels also. He has written plays. He has written poems, poetry. Right?
Can we use shallow literatures or very deep literatures like Dostoevsky, Kafka?
Better to use them. What is shallow literature? Chetan Bhagat.
Fantasy.
Acha, the fantasy and other thing. No, don't use. Like Sidney Sheldon, Jeffrey Archer, those kind of books. Sidney Sheldon. No, you don't know. Huh? Non-fiction you should use. Non-fiction books. Again, so don't use those what we call is popular fiction. Right? So popular fiction which you read while traveling, in the train and something, it's good. But better not to use that. Better to use the classics. The what you said, deep classics.
It's lead to ambiguous. Some, for example, Dostoevsky's narrative studies very existential. It's
Correct.
self. If I express it in answer, it is individualistic.
No, depending on the topic you are bringing it. No, you are not bringing in every topic, right? If the topic is about something related to crime, death and life, justice, someone's guilt, right?
Based on values.
So based on that, you have to bring such kind of examples. So for that, what you need to do is that if you look into last 10-20 years essay topics, you can categorize them into keywords. there are essay topics related to justice. Justice is a keyword, right? Similarly, truth. Truth is a keyword, like wisdom, knowledge, love, right? Discipline, perseverance, patience. So there are qualities, there are values. Values as keywords, qualities as keywords. In some cases, concepts as keyword, like democracy, right? Democracy is both a value as well as a concept, right? So democracy is a keyword. So for these keywords, whenever your essay test is there, I think we are given essay topics, I mean broad themes for essay, I think. Like first essay is going to be related to history or philosophy, right? So for those topics, those keywords, you collect these value addition materials, right? Like if it is history related, I want you to totally do away with what you read in modern history and world history. Don't use them in your essay examples, right? Put little extra effort and try to make a list of 5 or 6 historical non-fiction books, right? So the most famous, most critically acclaimed non-fiction books written on history, right? It can be about Mahatma Gandhiji, it can be about a freedom struggle, it can be about Mughals, like William Dalrymple. There is a famous author, he keeps writing about Mughal history and British history. There are books by him. So similarly, there could be, like Shashi Tharoor himself has written books, and there is one book by Vikram Sampath about Savarkar, right? So it can be any book, it can be on personality, it can be on event, it can be on certain themes in history as well. So just know the summary of them. Make a book, author name, name of the book, summary of the book, which is nothing but what is the central idea of the book. This is enough. You don't have to read those books. You don't have time to read. Ideally, you should have read, but you don't have time to do that. So no need to read them, but know about them. Another extra step what you can do, at least read reviews about these books compulsorily, preferably from the Hindu review or the Indian Express review of these books. So there will be like just 1-page review of these books. That review itself would have highlighted what is the idea of the book, and they would have criticized them also, right? You will get the objective assessment of the book. And that is why I keep saying your Sunday magazine, the Hindus, the supplementary edition of the Hindu Sunday magazine is your #1 source for essay writing, right? So my suggestion, take last 30-40 Sunday magazine editions. If it is hard copy available, well and good, or soft copy, and see, categorize, is there a book written on justice, on history, right, or geopolitics, or about media itself, right, or like about Dalits, discrimination, right, about women exploitation, women education, something related. There are variety of books. These themes, how essay paper is designed is that it is simply put, it is the extra effort, extra thinking or extrapolation of your GS syllabus, right? You should not write what is there in GS, but beyond GS, related to that, right? Something that we see, we feel, we sense on day-to-day basis in our daily lives, right? That you should be aware of, either through literature, either through newspapers, either through books, non-fiction, right? So that you have to bring. So anybody who bringing this content is what? Not filling your essay randomly with these things. If you have your own ideas, to substantiate those ideas, you are using these as examples. To reinforce your idea, to echo your idea, you are basically using this example. So this is far better than all your usual example. If I see anybody writing Mahatma Gandhiji in the, right, see about Gandhiji, if you have read book by so many Western authors have written, as if you have made this assignment, if you have made this homework of collecting things, then mentioning Gandhi, absolutely good. In one of the books about Mahatma Gandhi written by XYZ, right, a British historian, he says something, then okay, good, perfectly fine, right? So if you mention that, so once there was a young man traveling in train in South Africa, right? Something like this. So I know who is the young man, right? You, no, not Mahatma Gandhi, right? So there is no disrespect for him. It is just like, were you curious about Mahatma Gandhi to learn more about him, beyond spectrum and beyond, and the spectrum wrongly named book, spectrum, right? So what you get is unidimensional factual account of the history, right? So or even Bipin Chandra is leftist interpretation of our modern history, right? So try to diversify. So if I see same APJ Abdul Kalam, you people write Angulimal story, right, and Ramayana Mahabharata stories. The same stories, I have read so many times, right? I hate those stories. I hate those individuals also now. I mean, how many times? Like 10 people are coming for evaluation, 8 people use same example. Like this Thomas Alva Edison, I hate him to the core. 10,000 times. You don't have any other scientist in the world, right? 1901 to 2023, there are at least 700 or 800 different scientists who have won Nobel Prizes in physics, chemistry, in medical science, and in what? Physics, chemistry, medical science. No, economics is another one. There was one more, no? Huh? What? It's okay. Even if you take 3 disciplines, there are 2 to 3 different scientists. So you can just see similarly for literature. In Nobel Prize, so it is given to only those authors who ever achieved the highest excellence in literature, was considered to be achieved highest excellence in literature. So you have hundreds of authors and their books in just Nobel Prize list, and then the Booker Prize, our own Jnanpith, right, awards list. Every language has at least 4 to 5 different individuals. So it is a small assignment, homework you need to do, and you need to collect such different examples, right? So literature as a component should be there. Second one, and most of these topics somewhere have a psychological dimension nowadays, right? Psychological dimension, they are related to someone's thought process, mind, behavior, personality, right? So when we talk about patience, when we talk about something like perseverance, right, or about so there are topics, if you see closely, they are related to mind as a theme. Any book written about the mind, right, or any psychological concepts, right, related to the topic, try to collect them as well. In any essay, just like in your answer, concepts must be there, right? Not written after introduction as a mechanical part. It should be scattered over the essay. So wherever you are talking about an idea, so if you can explain that idea through a concept, right? So it depends on the topic. You will eventually write. It can be a sociological concept. It can be a political science concept. It can be a psychological, in some cases, environmental concept, right? Ensure that in 1200 words there are at least 4 to 5 different concepts are written, right? So this is briefly about the essay, and when you start writing essays, now and then you can bring, and as part of the core batch, whenever I come, I will also check your essays one-on-one. You can bring your core essays and I will check when I come, right? So anything else? It's for people who have completed optional. No. How to prepare optional simultaneously? No, I was joking. No offense. Yeah. So how to prepare optional? See, by December you should be in a position to write answers for optional. Otherwise, there is no point in writing only GS answers again and again. So my suggestion, either you keep 2 days in a week only for optional, or entire day only for optional, or every day 3 to 4 hours for optional, or minimum 3 hours, right? For what? If you want to complete it, completing the optional, right? If you have completed optional, to make notes for the optional, right? If you have completed making notes for the optional through coaching, to enrich your optional notes, referring standard sources and trying to add value content for every topic, right? If you have done this, to answer previous year questions, right? If you have notes, it is value addition is done, then to answer previous year questions, and if it is done previous year questions, join optional test series, right? So that is the final stage, joining optional test series. So without doing these four things, don't join optional test series, right? So you can take next 4 months to do these things, entire July, another 10 days, okay, August, September, October, November, 4 months to either complete optional, write previous answers, make notes, and then in the month of December or January you can join the test series, right? So how you do it, how many hours you give it, depends on you. Some of you may be really good with, let us say, history or geography. My suggestion, skip geography test, right? Give time for optional. Similarly, you may be good with IR or social justice part, right? Something like genuinely you feel that you are really good, you don't have to do any extra effort here. So in those areas, be flexible, skip those tests, give time for optional or any other part. It can be another part of GS where you want to give more time. And core batch, don't think that with core batch you are going to make notes. It's not possible unless the previous year questions you can just make a summary of it, just the outline. So that anyway helps. The one I told about previous questions. But to make comprehensive notes, it is not possible. Okay, so see, for every topic content already exists. Toppers notes, coaching institution notes, standard books. So just if you don't have ready-made notes, so what you can do, according to the test, invest 2 to 3 hours, gather everything, consolidate and make notes, not handwritten notes, right? Just collect them and make notes and read it quickly, revise it quickly and come to the test. So don't panic that you have to make only handwritten notes for every topic. Be smart. It is not smart preparation. Okay. Maybe in the second iteration you can make the concise notes of this consolidated notes. In the third iteration also you can make it. But in the first iteration itself, don't try to make handwritten notes. It is impossible. You cannot make notes. Okay. Any other question? And CSAT don't ignore. Right. So you should not ignore CSAT. So those who genuinely believe that you are weak in CSAT, but because of fear staying away from it, every day half an hour to 1 hour, please practice CSAT. So if you can take care of prelims, as I told you, GS will improve. I am not worried about GS. Writing 1000 plus answers and reading thousands of synopses and making notes, being regularly in touch with previous year prelims and mains questions, your GS knowledge will go on getting deepening. You will retain. So that is why I have seen core batch students scoring from 90 with respect to GS 1 paper. GS knowledge will skyrocket, will shoot up. But CSAT, some of them who failed in prelims in core batch have failed in CSAT, despite me repeatedly warning them. So I warned immediately after prelims. I told people that it is going to become even more tough, even more difficult compared to 22. And I asked them to do minimum 60 full length CSAT question papers, right? So that also should be your target. But start with the basics. CSAT approach should be not directly touching the advanced question. So first class 4 to class 8 NCERT maths books, right? Doesn't matter you are IIT, medical science graduate, computer science from RV college or something. So class 4 to class 8 maths books, visit basic maths. So once you have done previous year questions, second stage. After that, CSAT questions from other examinations, CAT, GMAT or RBI exam, SBI PO exams, right, related to the trend in previous UPSC questions, right. So you have to keep solving, maybe after 2 months. So 1 month to do the basics, another month to do previous year questions, and from there onwards you have to regularly practice. Don't ignore CSAT at any cost. Okay. So this was it. So welcome to core batch, and I hope there is a soul sitting in this classroom, right, who will get us first rank. And I am not desperate for it, but I am very hopeful that this whole process, both in Bangalore and Delhi and even in online, people are going to write. So it is going to give you a really good opportunity. There is no program like this anywhere, right, which gives you such an opportunity. Make use of it and believe in yourself. You can do this program, and believe in incremental improvements, not suddenly jumping. If you don't see improvement, don't get panic and don't get discouraged. It is very natural to experience certain shortcomings or shortfalls in the beginning. So don't get worried about it. Because of that reason, don't quit, right. People quit because they are not able to complete the syllabus, they are not able to write satisfactory answers, right, they are not able to catch up with the timetable. So you find excuses and you leave it. So don't do that mistake, right. So I wish you all the best, and welcome to the core batch. Okay. Thank you.